Morning, everyone. Welcome to our Friday Namaste session. My heart is longing only for thee, only for thee. Those are the words of the song that we just heard. And I realize, as I was listening to that just now, that there is a very deep relationship between those words in that song and the lesson that we have from A Course in Miracles today, which I find to be so important that I actually had it, let me see if I can show this, tattooed onto my skin. There is no love but God's. I got that tattoo when we were making a movie called A Course in Miracles, which was celebrating the 50th anniversary of the scribing of the book. And there was a scene in the movie where I got this tattoo, and I'm really happy that I have it here because I can always look at it and remind myself, it's true, there is no love but God's. And also to remember that it's when I have this single longing and desire for that love that something beautiful happens, something transformational happens, that love, which is the only aspect of divinity, and my longing for that love merge together and become one. And within that oneness, the experience that we talk about here every day, which we can never really express with words, but which can only be known when you allow it to be known. But that experience in that merging suddenly becomes full and whole and complete within me. So once again, there is no love but God's love, and my longing to know that love. Teddy talked a little bit about that longing just yesterday, how we have to want that experience because that indicates that we know that there is an experience, that there is a reality beyond the one that we're experiencing right now, and we really want it. There are two other lessons in A Course in Miracles. One says, the world I see holds nothing that I want. And the next lesson, beyond this world, there is a world that I want. Some people like to say, well, if this is all there is, why do I have to long for? What role could longing or desire even play? And when we think that, or if we hear that, it means we're missing the point. First of all, an intellectual concept or an intellectual grasping will never, ever allow the experience to enter or to take hold of us. You have to want it with your whole being, because it is only when you desire this experience with your whole being that the whole thing, because it is whole, comes to you. There is no love but God's love. That is a whole experience. There's no condition to it, in other words. It doesn't say there is no love but God's love except when X, Y, and Z, or unless you were to leave God's love and wander away in sin. There's nothing like that. It doesn't say anything like that, and none of that is true. It keeps it very simple. There is no love but God's love. Beyond this world, there is a world or an experience that I really want. So once again, this longing and the experience of God's love being all there is, that's the combination, you could say, that allows this experience to take hold of us, to fill us, to be revealed within us. And when it is, there are no words that can come close. Even if that experience is just the most briefest of seconds, still, you know from that moment on, this is real. And it's the only thing that I desire. So my advice for all of you today is to allow that desire to fill you, to take hold of you, realizing there is no love but God's love. Only this is real. You know, we talk sometimes about how this is not the real world. The world that we're seeing with our eyes is not the real world. And yet there is, it's easy for us to say, but I see it, I feel it, this is very real indeed to me. Of course it's real because I'm looking at it right now. Well, I had a little experience yesterday that I think describes uh, maybe just a hint of what it means when it says, "Beyond this world, there is a world that I want," or that this is not the ultimate reality, that there is something beyond all of this. I was at a restaurant that I love to go to here in Portland. It's called Whole Bowl. And of course, like most restaurants, you can't go in, you can only get takeout. So I'm standing at the takeout window, and there is a clear plastic guard in front of me that goes into the restaurant. I'm standing outside. And as I'm looking through this into the little kitchen area, what I see is, well, I see someone standing there, but because of the reflection and the way that the light is hitting the plastic, I'm not really sure if that person is actually inside the restaurant or is perhaps standing behind me, and I'm actually just seeing the reflection of that person. And I'm looking at it trying to decide when suddenly I realize that someone has stepped up to the curb behind me, and now I can see their reflection. And it's only then that I realized that what I was looking at before was not a reflection, but was reality. Now, there's a line in, I think it's one of the letters of Paul, where he says, "Until now, we have seen through a glass darkly." And this is what I'm trying to express here today. We have been looking through a dark glass and seeing something that we think is there, but we're not sure. The reflections are such that it's hard to tell what is inside and what is behind me, what is real and what is just a reflection. And I think that this lesson today, "There is no love but God's love," gives us an understanding of how we can know the difference. If we can just hold true to that one idea, that one reality, there is no love but God's love, and let that fill me in every moment. Let that reality, that experience be the only thing that I desire, to know that there is no love but God's. In other words, love is eternal, love is whole, love is real right now, and it's yours if you would but choose it, if you would but choose to receive. So, that is always the task before us, to choose love, no matter what, our three favorite words. So, this morning, Vicky and Teddy are at a funeral. So they're going to be with us again next week, but we send our love to them and gratitude for their constant presence. And I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to David now and our beautiful Namaste family. Good morning, David. Welcome.
Good morning. It's beautiful here. The birds are singing. We're having a great time.
Of course.
There. Okay. I'm just perhaps not connecting through the speaker. Anyway, that that beautiful core truth that you touched there, James, is so important, so meaningful. Part of what happens in that understanding is that not only do we discover that there is no love but God's love, but that means that all love is God's love.
Yes.
And in our desire for God's love, it's also true that all of our desire for love is a desire for God's love. And I sometimes get frustrated with the need that I keep perceiving or hearing for myself to be aware enough that I focus on this greater reality, that I make that so important to me when I get lost in the day-to-day. I get lost in the different things that are happening. Different things are happening. Microphones are jumping towards me. It's a good life. But what happens is the recognition that even when we are completely asleep to that greater reality, that love is not asleep to us. That desire that we experience for love, to be loved, to be whole, to be accepted, it keeps pushing us farther and farther into love throughout our lives, and we touch that divine presence in so many ways as we awaken. And we begin to recognize this is something greater. This isn't just parent or spouse or child. This is greater. And we begin to open to that greater reality. Because what is that desire but God calling us? That desire is the call. And at whatever level we're able to take it, it's still the divine doing us. There's the daily word for today is I weave the tapestry of my life. And it's talking about how through our choices, through our decisions. But then I realized, yes, that's true. And the other thing is the weaver is weaving me. That I am being awoken, drawn into this. This love is within me. It will be there. I will always desire it. And in that desire, my awakening is a constant unfoldment. So that beautiful experience of knowing that love, I realize I want to give a shout out here to ignorance. And perhaps because I've practiced it so often in my life. But my first experience of the fullness and the power of that love, the complete, unconditional, overwhelming divine presence, didn't come out of some spiritual knowledge or seeking. It came out of desperation. It came out of a need to get beyond hurt and pain and anger to where I could be the love I needed to be as a father. And I asked that happen. And I think of it now as prayer, but it more represented a childish tantrum towards the divine, which doesn't seem to bother the divine at all, fortunately. But what happened was out of that, it was simply given. The love was brought, it touched me, it took all that away, and it was triggered by my love for a child, my love for her mother. I wasn't thinking of God. I wasn't thinking of the divine. And it was given. So I realized however much I think I'm the weaver putting the decisions, the choices, I realize it's all God's love and it's all God. And gently, caringly, tenderly, and sometimes with a bit of a prod, it's taking me into this awareness of simply what is true. And that's that love.
It's beautiful. I could really feel that, David, that no matter what the love feels like, looks like, where it seems to be going, where it appears to be coming from, it's really all the same. Love is love. And one of the ways that we express that is by saying there is no love but God's love, that divine love, or maybe we could say unconditional love. Love is unconditional. And if there are conditions, well, then it's something else. But the love that we experience for our children, our grandchildren, our beloved, our friends, it's all just part of that infinite ocean of the love of God. And to throw ourselves into that, even when it's painful, even when it brings up all of our wounds and makes us afraid, to still throw ourselves into that infinite ocean of grace and to let it dissolve us. You know, there is a great dissolving in this love where everything that seems to not be part of it, if we throw ourselves in, if we give ourselves completely to this love, it begins to dissolve and we're left with nothing but that essential wholeness that we share, that we exude every moment, whether we want to or not. So thank you, David. That was beautiful. Now, every once in a while, especially when Vicky and Teddy are not here, I'd like to turn to Alice because Alice always has something beautiful to say, and I'm sure on this topic we will not be disappointed. So, good morning, Alice. Would you like to share anything?
Good morning. And I think it's wonderful that at 7, is it 7 o'clock for you, James?
Yes.
Yes. And that love that you have for the divine gives you that strength and that energy to love us all at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Well, anyone who really knows me knows that I'm not an early morning person, so it definitely is an expression of that love to get up and be ready to go.
Yes, yes. And this is a lovely energy this morning. It's afternoon for me. And David, what you shared was just, as always, so from the heart and so honest and so beautiful. And as I was listening to both of you just now, my heart was bursting, and it's been bursting today because I watched the sunrise, and the love just entered my heart and burst with it. I put a little video on my Facebook page about the sunrise this morning. It was so beautiful. And I felt the rising of love inside me as light and as innocence, as immense innocence in its simplicity. And I felt my own innocence within the embrace of love this morning. And that was just a grace. It was such a beautiful grace. And I've been feeling that toward everybody I've seen today. And I'm feeling it toward you all as I'm looking at you all right now uh, in this Zoom room. It's just so beautiful. The word beloved in your song today, James, as it starts, that also spoke to me. The word beloved.
Mm.
When we are addressed by Jesus, addressed by love, addressed by the divine, often we are addressed by the name beloved. We also address others with the word and the meaning beloved. And there is such a charge in this, in a beautiful way, in this word, my beloved. It's not necessarily a personal thing, although it certainly can be toward another human being, but it's a very beautiful way to address the divine. My beloved. And then the divine addresses us the same way. My beloved. I just looked it up on Google meaning on my phone just now, and it said The meaning as an adjective is dearly loved. My dearly loved. And when you sing to the beloved, you are singing to love. You are singing to the dearly loved, and you are receiving it as you're singing it. It's totally united. And it goes beyond the longing into the experience. Just like that sunrise just seemed to fill me this morning. It was an experience of the beloved filling me. And I just wanted to honor that word beloved. As we say it, just say it to yourselves at this moment, beloved. I am the beloved of God. There is no love but God's, and I am the beloved of God, and God is the beloved of me. Oh. Yes. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. I could really feel that, Alice. Thank you so much. Thanks for bringing our attention back to that one word, beloved. Yesterday I was having a conversation with a friend of mine here, and somehow we got onto the subject of music and Christian music. And I said that for the most part, most Christian music doesn't do it for me. And I think one of the reasons is so much of it that you hear, that I've heard, is singing to the great King or Lord, the Lord, and I give myself to you, Lord. And there are certain words like that, Lord, King, that don't really resonate with me, not nearly as much as beloved. There is a depth to that, to seeking only love. When we talk about the King or the Lord, there's such great distance. Those words are meant to keep us distant. The Lord wants, all of the people who serve him or her to be away, to be as far away as possible. The King is in the castle on the throne, far away, but the beloved is close. The beloved is intimate. And this is what initiates that longing, that initiates the experience, to see God as the beloved and to know that there is only love, and that all love comes from the divine, which is just another way of saying it comes from the source. Everything is emanating from a loving source. And if I can give myself to that loving source, then I give myself everything. I receive everything, and I become the fountain of everything. So thank you, Alice, and thank you, David. As always, such a beautiful experience to share this. And let's just see if there's anyone who would like to lay anything on the altar this morning.